Over the years, definitions and terminology related to someone with an intellectual or developmental disability have changed. Words such as feeble-minded, retarded, moron, idiot, and imbecile were all once used as legitimate professional terms. Today, variations of all these words are most often used as slang, intended to hurt and insult people. As times have changed, so have words. More than any time in history, the most recent decades have been marked by a move toward self-advocacy and self-determination. Simply, this means people speak up and advocate for what they want and need. They make choices and determine their own lives. When they speak, we have an obligation to listen. The most prominent professional organization in this area of disability is the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, AAIDD. They've been around for over 130 years. Throughout that time, one of the most important things they've done is to continually redefine and describe this particular disability, one that at one time was known as mental retardation. Today, thankfully, that term is gone. It has been replaced with intellectual disability. AAIDD didn't change the basic definition of the disability, but it did offer a new perspective, one that allows all of us to have a clearer understanding of the disability we're talking about. AAIDD says that an intellectual disability is characterized by significant limitations both in intellectual functioning and in adaptive behavior, which covers many everyday social and practical skills. The disability originates before the age of 18. To understand the definition, let's take a few minutes to break it down. First, significant limitations in intellectual functioning. That simply means intelligence or general mental capacity for things like problem solving, the ability to reason and understand. One criterion to measure intellectual functioning is an IQ test. This is the most commonly accepted way to measure intellectual functioning. Generally, an IQ test score of around 70 to 75 indicates a limitation in this area. Next is significant limitations in adaptive behavior. Adaptive behavior includes conceptual, social, and practical skills that have been learned in order to function in everyday life situations. Examples of conceptual skills include reading and writing, money concepts, and the ability to understand written or spoken language. Social skills are things like following rules and obeying laws, how you interact with other people, and your own sense of self-esteem. Practical skills include day-to-day activities such as routines, housekeeping, and safety. To measure adaptive behavior, professionals look at what a person can do in comparison to others in the same age group. The last part of the definition is originates before the age of 18. This simply means that for someone to have an intellectual disability, whatever happened to change the typical course of development had to happen before the age of 18. Some people who have an intellectual disability may have other conditions as well, like cerebral palsy, seizure disorders, impaired vision, hearing loss, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, commonly known as ADHD. Intellectual disabilities will vary greatly from person to person, just like capabilities and limitations vary greatly among people who don't have a disability. You might be wondering, what causes an intellectual disability? There are a wide variety of medical and environmental conditions, including chromosomal or genetic conditions, drug and alcohol use during pregnancy, trauma, health problems, environmental toxins, and unknown causes. One group of causes has to do with genetic conditions. This includes things like Down syndrome and Fragile X syndrome. Chromosomes contain the information that helps determine who we are. Typically, people have 46 chromosomes. 23 come from mom, 23 come from dad. They join together in pairs in the very first cell, and as the cell divides, they're duplicated in every cell in the body. Sometimes, though, there are chromosome changes that occur before that very first cell even divides. These changes can appear in different ways. Sometimes the change involves an extra copy of a particular chromosome. Sometimes chromosomes can be broken or arranged in the wrong order. Many times, these changes can result in an intellectual disability. Other causes happen during pregnancy. An intellectual disability can result when a baby doesn't develop properly inside the mother. This can happen if a woman drinks alcohol or has an infection like rubella during her pregnancy. Drinking during pregnancy, in particular, can cause various problems that range from mild to severe. This can include learning, emotional and behavioral problems, and the physical problems that affect the heart and other organs. Fetal alcohol syndrome is among the fastest growing known causes of intellectual disability. Another cause is trauma. This can happen if the baby has problems during labor and birth, for example, not getting enough oxygen or being injured during delivery. Also, head injuries from an accident or child abuse may also cause brain damage. Tragically, this is also among the more common known causes. Health problems and diseases such as whooping cough, measles, meningitis, or HIV-related infections can also cause an intellectual disability. Poverty is an important consideration in all this, especially in developing nations. Poverty increases the risk of malnutrition, and the fact is, some children in the world simply don't get enough to eat. Intellectual disabilities can also be caused by inadequate medical care and exposure to poisons like mercury and lead. Finally, unknown causes. This is the largest category of all. In fact, it's larger than all the known causes put together. There's a rule of thumb that people who have milder disabilities are more likely to have an unknown cause for the condition. Intellectual disability is present in all countries, communities, races, and social classes. The common factor for all causes is that something interferes with the growth and development of the brain during the early period of a person's life. Back to the subject of terminology. You might be asking yourself, is intellectual disability the same as developmental disability? Well, not exactly. Developmental disabilities are the big umbrella grouping that covers many forms of disability. Cerebral palsy, autism, epilepsy, and intellectual disability are all developmental disabilities. These are defined as severe chronic disabilities that can be cognitive or physical or both. These disabilities appear before the age of 22 and are likely to be lifelong. Remember, an intellectual disability encompasses the cognitive part of this definition, that is, those disabilities that are broadly related to the thought process. Some developmental disabilities are only physical or sensory, but these are not necessarily intellectual disabilities. Hopefully, what we have just discussed will give you a better understanding of what intellectual disability is and where it comes from. Now, more importantly, let's talk about what an intellectual disability is not. For decades, doors to inclusion for people with intellectual disabilities to mainstream society have been tightly shut because of misconceptions, ignorance, and fear. Thankfully, this is changing.
My name is Ken. Welcome to my home.
Having an intellectual disability doesn't mean you have to live in an institution. In fact, institutions themselves are slowly disappearing. People are now choosing where and with whom they want to live. This may be with their parents, in an apartment, or even purchasing their own home. Having an intellectual disability doesn't mean you can't work in the community. Just like you and me, the importance of work to people with intellectual disabilities is significant. Work, including volunteer work, means making a contribution and having a structure to the day. It also means having an identity based on positive aspects of what a person can do rather than their disability.
Hi, I'm Mary Lou. I work in an office and I sort mail.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I worked here for 9 years at Pick and Save, but I'm a beggar.
Time to set table and this is.
Hi, my name is Sherry. I work at the office making coffee.
Having an intellectual disability doesn't mean you can't have significant social and intimate relationships. How important is developing relationships in your life? The fact is, this is important to everyone. Today, more and more people are developing friendships, dating, and even getting married. Do you remember the first time you met someone with an intellectual disability? How comfortable were you in your interactions with them? For some people, this may be difficult. Maybe there's a fear of saying something wrong. The most important thing to remember is that they are people. Treat them and interact with them just like you would with anyone else.
Interact with me like you would anyone else. Don't avoid me, and please don't treat me like a child.
Talk directly to me, listen to what I have to say, and don't speak for me.
I want to be as independent as possible. Don't assume I need assistance.
Unless you know I'm hard of hearing, don't shout when talking to me. Please use a normal tone of voice.
If you don't understand me, ask me to repeat it. Don't pretend you understand and walk away.
I want people to be genuine and honest. If you don't know what to say to me, talk about the weather, news, or some other topic, as long as you include me.
All too often, people with intellectual disabilities are the object of jokes. They're not welcome in communities, and they're portrayed as less worthy than others. One of the greatest challenges they face is overcoming these barriers to inclusion in society. Whether you are paid support staff, a teacher, or a volunteer, it's important for you to be aware of what an intellectual disability is and what it is not.
You paper plastic.
Hopefully, you'll be in a position to teach others and maybe even confront a stereotype or two. Most of all, I hope you'll just be a friend. I think you'll discover that people with intellectual disabilities are people with a full range of emotions. They have hopes and dreams. They work, they learn, they laugh, and they love. Complete in every important respect, they are, first and foremost, people.